Roll Tide.
No flags flying.
No flags.
No flags.
One there, a couple sacks, but
no
we're okay.
Roll
Tide and welcome to Crimson Tide Rewind, live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. It's presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, who reminds us, don't wait, vaccinate. Roger Hoover, joined by former Crimson Tide linebacker Cory Reamer. We have our engineer Todd Robbins with us, and this is a special day for Mr. and now Mrs. Todd Robbins. Congratulations on Todd's wedding earlier today to Jenny, who's here. We've got the highlighter crew celebrating. It's going to be a fun night. It's already been a very momentous day for the Robbins family, so we're thrilled for you guys. Roll Tide, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. That's exciting. I'm glad we're discussing a win for today and this happy day. You know, it would have a whole lot worse. We still been celebrating you, obviously, Todd.
We get victory cigars for this wedding.
Yeah, heck yeah, right now. Let's light them up. I got a few extras.
Well, we got to smoke them because we had them on Saturday with a 34-20 win against the Tennessee Volunteers. Cory, it wasn't looking great at times in the first half, but this football team, once again, finds a way in the second half to get a win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a team that just continues to fight, probably exceeding expectations from what we saw early on in the season. A lot of people were not sure what this team was going to become, you know, this deep into the season. We're sitting at 7-1 now, still undefeated in the SEC, got a lot to play for, but they showed up Saturday. I mean, obviously it was a slow start, and the thing is this team just can frustrate the heck out of all these Alabama fans. You can put together one half in one game, second half in another game, but it just doesn't seem like they can do it for 60 minutes, or they haven't yet. So what that tells me is that their best football is still to be played, and I think Saturday, the second half, was probably the most dominant performance we've seen in a half so far from this unit that's out there. Now, there's still a lot of work to be done. If you're going to beat the teams that we have to finish with, especially LSU in a couple weeks after the off week, we still got a lot of work to do. But this was something that we can definitely build on, and we've got now some downtime in this off week, get some people healthy. But I was excited. I mean, I think as anybody that was out there watching this game, you had to be excited to see the performance that we put out there in the second half. Just a complete dominant performance, 27-0 in the second half. It was awesome. Got it on offense, defense. You got it from both sides, and everybody played well. And the biggest thing was only one penalty. You know, according to Josh Heupel, there's the one flag. According to Josh Heupel, you know, you might have some different opinions on all of that, but there we go. But it was clean. It was a good, clean football game, and they executed extremely well, and it started out right out of the chute in the second half. But we got to figure out how to overcome these slow starts. I mean, this is something that you cannot do going into some of these teams that we're going to be finishing up with, especially if you want to compete at the next level beyond just winning the Western Division and the SEC. If you want to have a chance at playing in the next, you know, the Final Four, the playoffs, you know, this is going to be something that you've got to get better at. We've got to figure out how to come out of the gate running a lot faster.
We're going to talk all about it coming up over the next hour, the win against Tennessee, plus a look ahead to the open date and the LSU game. We are certainly excited that will be a night game, 6:45, announced for the start time.
As it should be. As it should be. This is going to be a game that determines a lot in the West. I mean, we've still got Auburn at the end of the year, but this game right now, it's the next one on the schedule, and it's the most important one of this season because LSU and Alabama are the two contenders for the SEC West right now. So a lot's going to be made out of who wins this ball game.
Again, we're going to talk all about it over the next hour as we're live with you from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. And if you'd like to join us on the show, give us a call on the Yellowhammer Brewing hotline. Say congrats to Todd and Jenny as well. Give us a call at 877-202-BAMA. We're just getting started with Crimson Tide Rewind, and this is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. A reminder to keep up with everything Alabama with the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app. It's presented by Cadence Bank. It's available at the App Store and Google Play. Download the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app now for free. And I want to let you know, if you're driving around Tuscaloosa listening to us tonight, head over to the Patriot Center T-Mobile store on Highway 69 South right now. You can meet current Crimson Tide football players Kool-Aid McKinstry, Deontay Lawson, Kendrick Blackshire, and Terrion Arnold until 7 o'clock. Also register to win great prizes prizes, including game tickets, a branded Yeti cooler, signed merchandise, and more. You won't want to miss this. Roll Tide with T-Mobile. So the Crimson Tide defense pitched a shutout in the second half. What'd you see as Tennessee was able to move the ball downfield in the first half? It seemed like everything changed in the second half.
Yeah, it did. But, I mean, in the first half, obviously outside of that opening drive, I thought the defense played extremely well. And you got to give credit to Tennessee. They came out and they were on fire. I think Joe Milton was, 9 for 9 at one point passing, and they were just they were completing everything, couldn't do anything wrong at that point. And then they got the favorable matchup against Braswell. Squirrel, what was his name?
Squirrel
I was tired of hearing about
Played
Squirrel
thoughtful.
White. Yeah, great player, but tired of hearing about him because he was all over the place, especially in that first half. And but the defense, they really were like kind of in a bend but don't break mentality. And the offense turned the ball over with the fumble, puts them in a bad position. They hold them to a field goal there. Another drive that Tennessee put together gets all the way. They got 1st and goal from the 6. And they hold them to a field goal there. So defense played extremely well. That first drive outside, and that was a phenomenal catch. I mean, you got it, and they were reviewed it a couple times. It was unbelievable. Great play. But then outside of that, defense really just started really tightening up, and they did not allow anything from this Tennessee offense. And I thought they played one of their most complete games. And we were doing a lot of different looks, changed a few things up in that first half. You heard Coach Saban in his press conference talking about going from an odd front to an even front. They were moving the ball against the odd front, go back to our normal 4-3 kind of a look. And from that point on, they really struggled to get any momentum from the offensive side of the ball.
What's made Alabama's defense in the red zone so good? Because they were able to limit Tennessee to some field goals once the balls got in the red zone, but that's kind of been a similar story going back to Texas A&M, even Arkansas, Ole Miss before that.
Yeah, I mean, it gets tough when you get down in the red zone. You got to have a really good quarterback that can be really throw some pinpoint passes. You got to throw it where only your receiver can catch the football, and this defense makes it so difficult. There's not any guys that are running wide open, so you've got to be a pretty accurate passer to have success when you're in the red zone. It's a tough place anywhere because just the field gets condensed. You could play some man across the board. There's not a lot of places to run, and there's just a lot of bodies in a very small space. It makes it difficult, but got to give credit to this defensive line. They played a heck of a game. They were putting pressure up the middle, only rushing 4-3. We were able to push the pocket and really put a lot of pressure on Joe Milton, make that football come out fast. And that's key when you're playing, especially in the red zone. Don't give them time for receivers to run around because after a couple seconds, the route tree's over, the combinations are over, and then they're just trying to scramble and try to get open. But he didn't have time to do that a lot in this game, which was good to see. This defense, the secondary, has played absolutely phenomenal. Terrible that we lost Terry and Arnold, and hopefully he's able to recover pretty quickly from that. It sounds like it was not it was a mild concussion from what I understand. Hopefully he's able to come back, but he played well. Caleb Downs just continues to impress. This secondary, and Kool-Aid McKinstry as well. He played extremely well outside of some special teams blunders, but outside of that, this whole secondary has played some really quality football this season.
Part of a fun Saturday in Tuscaloosa, the Crimson Tide 34, the Volunteers 20. Again, the final score from what we saw at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Again, we're talking about it over the next hour. If you'd like to give us a call on the Yellowhammer Brewing hotline at 877-202-BAMA. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Again, if you'd like to join us on the show tonight, give us a call on the Yellowhammer Brewing hotline at 877-202-BAMA. Tonight's first question from the phones brought to you by Alabama 811 to help prevent injuries, outages, and loss of life. Call 811 or visit al811.com before you dig. It is free, it is simple, and it's the law. For the first time tonight, we'll go to that Yellowhammer Brewing hotline, and we'll go to Spring Hill, Tennessee, where Mark joins us now. Roll Tide, Mark.
Hey, Roll Tide. I may live in Tennessee now, but it's always Alabama. Hey, just a quick question. Kevin Steele, he doesn't get a lot of credit. I think he has, he's done so much for Alabama. My question is for our linebacker buddy there. We were playing an odd coverage defensively. Coach Saban says they got into an even package and got more pressure. Can you explain to the callers what Coach Saban's referring to there in terms of making that adjustment? And I understand Kevin Steele had a big part in making that recommendation. I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, Mark. So odd is just exactly what it sounds like. You got a three-man front. You got a nose tackle, 2-5 techniques, or a variation of those two, and then you go to a four-man front where you've got kind of two noses and two ends, and it kind of makes the game plan going into it, I guess, was that they were having so much success running the ball between the tackles that you go into it thinking that an odd man front, a three-man front where you've got more defensive linemen that are kind of bunched up in the middle of that defense really makes it a lot tougher to run between those tackles because there's more guys that are filling more of those gaps in the middle. And you kind of saw that Tennessee came out with a game plan. It looked like they were just taking their tackles and trying to almost like wrap a blanket around the defense and then using Joe Milton to really have success in the running game, and he was kind of running off tackle.
The option, really.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, even when he was back there by himself, it was just, you could kind of just tell that they were just trying to fold the defensive line into the middle and trap the linebackers in there where they couldn't get over the top of those tackles, where you kind of had an edge. It's harder to set an edge with a three-man front. And so they were kind of just folding those guys into the middle and just both tackles pushing inward. And then Joe Milton was just taking off of the tackles, back. And he was having a lot of success in the running game doing that. So we kind of noticed that early on. You saw the change from going from a three-man to more of a four-man, 4-3 look, or, we really call it a 3-4 look, where you've kind of got some more edge backers that are walked up, and so they can set the edge where you don't have that easy access outlet point for the quarterback to run off of. And it made a big difference because he busted out a few big runs, Milton did, early on in that game with that game plan. And we noticed it fairly quickly and made the adjustment pretty quick.
Tennessee came into this matchup leading the SEC in rushing. They only get 133 yards rushing in this ballgame. Milton led the way with 59, but then Dylan Sampson, 28 yards. And then really surprising to see Jabari Small, 24, Jalen Wright, 22, far below what they've been doing against the rest of the SEC.
Yeah, I think they were averaging like 6 yards a carry going into this game. And Jalen Wright was the guy who we were all worried about being the explosive runner from this group. And we really limited him in the running game. That's one of Coach Saban, we always talk about it. That's one thing he likes to do, is try to make them one-dimensional, take away the running game. We know that the strength is not throwing it downfield. We talked about Joe Milton doesn't have the ability, or didn't really have a lot of success so far this season, of throwing the ball in those intermediate and deep routes. Of course, like we said last week as well, Alabama somehow finds a way to make quarterbacks that are coming to play us look like a lot better than they have all season. And we saw in that first drive that he was completing the ball down the field, and they were having a lot of success there. But this defense did a phenomenal job of really shutting down that run game that they've been leaning on. I think they were averaging 230 yards a game rushing. So this was well below what we've seen from them this season. And it was a huge game plan. We saw it really come into effect in the second half when they just couldn't get much at all going. And but you got to give credit to Joe Milton. He did a pretty good job, especially in that first half of finding those receivers downfield. But you just knew that it was going to be reversion to the mean at some point. He's not a guy that's going to have a ton of success throwing the ball downfield. It's just that's not his style of game. I think he was last in the league of yards per attempt. He doesn't throw the ball down the field very much, but he kind of had to, especially late in that second half when they started falling behind.
Part of a fun win for the Crimson Tide. The defense really strong. We'll talk more offense when we come back in a moment. Again, if you'd like to join us, give us a call on the Yellowhammer Brewing Hotline, 877-202-BAMA. Also want to say thank you to PNC Bank. They're pleased to be back this season with the PNC Achievers all throughout the collegiate year. PNC Bank will salute both academic and athletic excellence through its proud partnership with the Crimson Tide. You're listening to Crimson Tide Rewind, and this is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Hey, if you'd like to join us on tonight's show, you can submit your question to us on the Alabama Media Group Twitter line at UA_CTSN. That's brought to you by AL.com, your source for SEC sports. Once again, we'll go back to the Yellowhammer Brewing Hotline. Again, the number is 877-202-BAMA. And right now we will go to Florence, where Don joins us. Roll Tide, Don.
Roll Tide. My question is the dirty play that the Tennessee player hit the Alabama player and way down with the forearm. My question is, the officials some way missed it. But can the SEC committee look at that and suspend a player or something for a dirty play like that?
No, I don't think they can. It's NFL probably would have something to say for something like that, but I don't think the SEC is going to come in and have a penalty or a suspension or anything like that. It was a close call. I mean, especially from the crimson-colored lenses that we watched it through, it definitely looked like it was. And I agree, it was something that was a little bit late. Guy was on the ground, obviously had already been tackled, and you just see that a lot more in college football and NFL. Guys don't really come in and try to just tackle and bring guys to the ground. There's a lot more of really punching that goes on trying to get the football out from a lot of people, and it was definitely seemed to be a little bit late, a little egregious there, but didn't get called on the field. And but it was definitely a blow to the back of the head when the guy's on the ground. If that was a quarterback, you'd probably see a flag from in that scenario. But with it being a non-quarterback, those guys don't get the same love as quarterbacks do. So no penalty there. There was one penalty on Alabama all night, and Tennessee's one of those teams that's they've said about not getting calls, but they're one of the most penalized teams. I can't remember what their total number of penalties was in this game, but I think they're like 128 out of 134 teams in Division I football in terms of the number of penalties per game, and they kept up with that this week.
Yeah, 8 penalties for 55 yards for Tennessee, just 1 penalty for 5 yards against Alabama as the Crimson Tide earned the win 34-20 on the third Saturday in October. We mentioned we'd talk about the offense. What a burst. 2 plays right out of halftime to get a quick touchdown to make it a 20-14 football game. That was really critical. Isaiah Bond getting a 46-yard touchdown pass from Jalen.
Yeah, what a turnaround from the first half. We had 6 possessions in the first half. 3 of them were punts, 1 of them an interception, 1 of them a fumble, and the 1 touchdown in the first half. And then you come around in the second half and they come out of the chute, 2 plays, and really that was probably the turning point of this game, getting that huge touchdown to start us off in the second half. And they didn't slow down from there. I mean, this offense was really humming and didn't turn the ball over again, which was good to see. And forced a turnover from this defense. So this offense, I think that they played probably easily one of their best games. You got to give a shout out to Jermaine Burton. That guy just seemed to play out of his mind, and he was, it just in that first half, it just didn't seem like we had a ton of edge. It was, I don't know if we were asleep or if it was just I don't know what we were playing under pressure or what it was, but Jermaine Burton, you could see it after every time he got a catch. He was just getting up, fired up. He was really trying to ramp up the crowd, which we know that he has done. I've heard plenty of people that complain about his antics after the play and how much he likes to talk and engage in all the fan base, opposing fan bases. But you kind of got to love it when you've got a game like this, as intense as it is. Sometimes you need a guy like that to really fire everybody up on the sideline, and he came to play. And every ball that was thrown his way, he came down with. It was incredible. He just played lights out, and he has for us a few games. He's made some plays that have really kept this offense going or got this team going. It was great to see. I mean, there was, on top of that, offensive line in the second half played absolutely phenomenal from a defensive line that people say are just behind Texas A&M as one of the best in the conference. Jalen Milroe had a lot of time back there to find some open receivers. They weren't able to get a lot of pressure in that second half. I think that Tommy Rees did a little bit more this game in terms of being creative to try to slow down some of their defensive line and their blitz packages. We had some speed sweeps, some speed tosses. I mean, we were just doing a little bit trying to slow them down as much as we possibly could, and it worked. And it was hard for them to get a lot of pressure. And you got to give, the one matchup that we were talking about a lot was J.C. Latham and James Pierce. James Pierce is a guy that's going to play on Sunday. And he's not an every down guy. He's more of a speed rusher, an edge rusher. He likes to come in on those obvious passing down situations. And J.C. Latham held his own. Yeah. And they flipped him around on different sides a couple of times, tried to put him up against Proctor every once in a while. And both of those guys held their own against one of the best in the conference.
Yeah, Pierce slowed down to only 2 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss and sack in this game. But I believe that was in the first half. Again, you didn't hear much from them in the second half as Alabama rolled to a 34-20 win over the Tennessee Volunteers. We're coming to you live tonight from Baumhower's Victory Grille, who's recently been ranked #1 for the best wings in Alabama. Baumhower's has been serving up its famous wings for over 40 years, so no wonder why they are the best in Alabama. Congratulations to Bob and his entire team. Baumhower's legendary fun and legendary food. We'll keep talking about the win on the third Saturday in October when we return. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Again, if you'd like to join us on the show, there's another way to do it. You can always give us a call on the Yellowhammer Brewing Hotline. You can also submit your question to us on the Alabama Media Group Twitter line at UA_CTSN. That's brought to you by AL.com, your source for SEC sports. Speaking of that Yellowhammer Brewing Hotline, we'll go there once again. This time we'll roll over to Athens, where Jay joins us now. Roll Tide, Jay.
Roll Tide, Roger. First of all, buddy, I appreciate what you do for the network. You do a great job. The rest of the guys on the crew as well. We appreciate y'all, what y'all do.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Cory, my question for you, being a linebacker, to play with Braswell knocking the ball out of Milton's hands, how hard is it for Jihad to focus on scooping the ball first before taking off running to that end zone, because it was so close just to get that touchdown?
Yeah, you know, as defensive players, we're on defense for a reason, right? We can't catch. We can't catch. We're not. We learned early on we don't have the hands of these offensive guys. So whenever we get an opportunity to scoop and score or get in the end zone, it's you try not to get too excited and fall all over yourself, especially when you're staring down the end zone. I think I scored maybe one touchdown in my entire career as in that Coates High School. Yeah, and we're not in college. Never scored one in college. But it's definitely an exciting moment, and that play just. If you watch the replay, Braswell's kind of just holding up, waiting to see what's going on, and makes a quick move with his hands and comes around the corner. Not even going for the football, just hits him in the back of the elbow with a helmet. And then you get Jihad Campbell just scooping and scoring. And I can tell you who didn't want any part of that. A guy that's pretty physical for Tennessee, number 6, their running back. He wanted no part of trying to bring Jihad Campbell down. And that was really the icing on the cake for this game. It was a heck of a play. I think he was decent SEC Player of the Week, Defensive Player of the Week is what it was.
Player of the Week, yeah. Will Reichard, once again, the specialist of the week. Roll Tide to Will Reichard.
Yeah, I mean, he just continues to just widen that gap of the all-time scoring leader in the SEC. Jihad Campbell's a guy that you got to be excited for. He comes into the season, he's a little banged up during camp and kind of fighting behind Trez Marshall and Deontay Lawson for that linebacker, a lot of linebacker reps, and he goes out there and he's making the most out of it. Whenever he gets in, he's playing extremely well. Gets that huge stop on that 4th and 1. You know, Josh Heupel goes for 2 4th-down conversions in deep in his own territory.
What did you think of that?
I thought it was aggressive. You know, you're in the ball game. You're kind of got the lead at some points, and you're so backed up. I was kind of shocked, you know, but he had faith in his offense and at that point in time, they really weren't having trouble converting a lot of those. They were moving the ball pretty effectively at that point. So not entirely surprised, more surprised on the field position standpoint of it. But he had a chance to really put this ball game away if he converts those. But you got to give credit to this defense of showing up and really and shutting those 0 for 3 on 4th down attempts. That was huge for this defense.
Especially considering the field position, because we always hear that over and over again. It's all about analytics, why a lot of these teams and a lot of kind of newer age college coaches are going for it more on 4th down. But you have to figure at some point field position has to come into part of that.
Yeah, you would think so. I think the analytics really come in once you cross the 50. If you're sitting on the 40, the 35, you know, and you start looking at the analytics from that standpoint, anywhere inside the 50 is really more where that kind of comes in. I think it was more of just Josh Heupel thinking, this is our chance. We've got to keep going. We've got to keep drives alive. We've got to score more points. We know this is our chance to really put this ball game away. Because if you're on the 45 in plus territory and you punt it and it goes in the end zone, it comes back out to the 20, you're not really getting much advantage there. But being backed up and giving Alabama great field position. I think they scored on one and had a field goal on another, I believe, after 2 of those. So, but that's tough. You know, any day, especially you see like the Eagles with the brotherly push or whatever they call it, the tush push. That's hard to stop when you've got 4th and 1. I mean, it's hard to keep an offense from gaining that much, especially with as much push as Tennessee's offensive line has been seemingly getting all season. You can't like really be mad at Josh Heupel for going for it, because all season long, all he has seen in the running game. Now, their pass protection has not been great all year, but their ability to move the line of scrimmage 2 to 3 yards all season long has really been unstoppable. So, not surprised necessarily, but it was kind of shocking, especially in those moments of the game where he ended up going for it.
All part of a great win for the Crimson Tide against Tennessee on Saturday. Crimson Tide Rewind is presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, who reminds all Tide fans to stay up to date with all recommended vaccinations. Flu season is here, and COVID-19 continues to affect our community. So don't wait. Vaccinate. We'll be hearing from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nick Saban, when we return. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Quick question, do you have a taste for winning? Dreamland Barbecues offers the triple threat dine-in, carry-out, and catering. Dreamland Barbecue, ain't nothing like 'em nowhere. Proud supporter of the Crimson Tide. It was, of course, Alabama getting a great win on the 3rd Saturday in October. Coach Saban was certainly fired up after the ball game, and afterwards he did a victory lap. He saluted the Crimson Tide student section. That was fun to see, celebrated with the team in the locker room, and then he met with the media. Here's a sample of part of his post-game press conference after Alabama's win on Saturday against Tennessee.
Obviously a pretty fun second half. Really proud of our players. When I walked in at halftime after they scored right before the half, I said, everybody here has got a choice. You got a choice to make. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? Everybody's got to choose what they want. And we went out and scored in 2 plays in the second half, in the first drive on offense, and changed the momentum of the game, and played really well from that time on. And Tennessee's got a really good team, and I'm really proud of our players for the way they competed in the game and came back, and the way they took care of business in the second half. But, we got a bye week coming up, so probably need to get a little rest for some of our guys. But we got more business to take care of in the future. But for right now, everybody should enjoy this. It's a great win for us. We had a great atmosphere in the stadium. Our fans were fantastic. They had a huge impact on the game in terms of the penalties at the end of the game and not allowing them to score.
And that was Coach Saban following the game, and again, just a great moment to see him kind of, instead of go right to the locker room, go over to the student section, have some fun. The team celebrates with the cigars in the locker room. They come out even after that and go back and celebrate with the students again. That's what makes Alabama football special.
Oh, absolutely. And people talked like last week in the pregame, even if this rivalry even still means anything, is Tennessee. I think it was either this show or the pregame, or I can't remember what it was. I think it was obviously last week. Somebody called in and said, this rivalry is way down, on the ladder for us now. You got LSU and Auburn and a few other teams, and you can just tell by the celebration and how much it means to this players, to this coaching staff, to everybody. And Coach Saban started on Thursday night with his coaches show. He was imploring the fans, the students, everybody, let's create an environment like we get when we go on the road, where it causes us problems. We get false starts, and let's give it back to some of these teams that are coming to play us, and they sure did. I mean, I heard a couple people say it was one of the loudest moments they've heard in that stadium in a long time when Jahad Campbell picks that up and runs it in for the icing on the cake towards the end of the game. And that's what you need. You hope to have that when you come home, and sometimes, we've been very blessed as fan base to see a lot of wins over the years, but it still makes a huge difference. The players feed off of the environment, feed off of the energy that's in that stadium, and you can just tell they just up their game a little bit, and they're excited, and it's good to see, because I know last year it was a lot of players that were really feeling like the pressure of expectations, playing to a certain level. You had, Will Anderson, Bryce Young, 2 guys that are first-round draft picks, and everybody kind of thought, we're just going to go out there and win because we got those two guys on the team. But it still matters a lot to have fans involved and getting loud for those moments when the opposing offense is on the field, and they really showed up this weekend.
Tremendous atmosphere at Bryant-Denny Stadium. The Crimson Tide still with 2 critical football games coming up at home this season. And when the Crimson Tide play at home, stay cool with a free non-alcoholic drink of your choice when you purchase a limited edition Alabama Yeti. These vintage Yeti cups are only available at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Elevate your game day with Yeti. You're listening to Crimson Tide Rewind live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Dos Equis wants you to experience this season with a real one. Head to DosEquisSweeps.com to enter for a chance to win tickets, hospitality passes, and pregame sideline passes for 2 to the Crimson Tide against the LSU Tigers on November 4th. Raise one with a real one. Dos Equis, proud partner of the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Please enjoy Dos Equis responsibly. Let's take a look at the prescription for success. It's presented by Payless Drugs. Payless Drugs, your locally owned family pharmacy with 4 locations in Birmingham. Payless can handle your prescriptions, over-the-counter solutions, and home delivery. Visit mynewpharmacy.com to pay less, or pay less at mynewpharmacy.com. Well, it is the open date for the Crimson Tide. This football team has played football for 8 straight weeks. So kind of take us through, Cory, what this week's going to look like for Alabama.
Yeah, this is going to be a well-deserved some time off, and this is, now you're starting to get ready for the back half of the season. And the way we always did it, and he still does, is you don't start immediately practicing for just LSU. And you don't want to wear yourself out by game planning for what is going to be the biggest game of the season, obviously. And you want to be prepared for it. But the coaching staff does a great job of not trying to wear them out, of taking it easy. You got to walk through today. You get a couple practices, kind of get your legs still moving where you don't just get, when you start back up next week, that it kind of shocks the system. You're still out there getting some workouts in, but you get to relax this weekend, and it's well-deserved. We got some injuries that we got to take care of, get some legs underneath us, refresh a little bit. It's hard because we're coming off of such a great second half, and we played so well that you don't want to lose the momentum that we had leaving this Tennessee game. But, when you're going through this week of practice, you're not really preparing for a specific team when you're doing game planning. You're going out there, and the coaching staff is going to throw at you a bunch of different looks from what you're going to see from not only LSU, but also Kentucky and Auburn and UT Chattanooga. And it's not their every down stuff. It's a lot more of their creative stuff or their one-off stuff that we've seen throughout the season. You got a lot of guys that are watching a ton of film, and they're finding plays and formations and stuff that just kind of tries to trick the defense or the offense, and you're just going to get a first look at that. So when the week of preparation actually begins, it's not the first time that you've seen it. But it's going to be a mental break for some of these guys as well for this weekend, because it's been exhausting. It's a long season, and you're welcoming having some time off, and you go home and rest, kick your feet up, watch somebody else play football, and then come back on Sunday, get ready for a big game.
Alabama against LSU, 6:45 start time on November 4th. One note, our radio coverage that day will begin at 3:30, getting you set for the Crimson Tide and the LSU Tigers. More on that when we come back for our final segment tonight of Crimson Tide Rewind. It's presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, who reminds Alabama fans, don't wait, vaccinate. For more information, visit alabamapublichealth.gov/IMN. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. What's on tap next for Bama is brought to you by Yellowhammer Brewing. Make sure you hit your stride with a refreshing Yellowhammer beer now at Bryant-Denny Stadium and at stores near you. Again, the Crimson Tide and the LSU Tigers, the next matchup on Saturday, November 4th. Our radio coverage will start at 3:30 that day. A little longer pregame show to get you set for a 6:45 kickoff under the lights at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And as we mentioned several times, Cory, kind of everything for what Alabama wants to do this season is on the line against LSU.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's still a ton to play for, and this next game is going to be the biggest one of the season so far. They've done a great job of handling their business. While we haven't played some of our best football at times, we've done enough to find ways to win these ball games so far against some pretty tough competition outside that Texas game that I feel like we had a chance. We could have easily won that ball game, but for the SEC, for this conference, for postseason implications, still a lot to be playing for, and it starts a week from Saturday against LSU, a team that is going to be really a tough test for this defense. As well as they just played, we're probably now going to be facing the most prolific offense that's in this conference, even though their record might not show it. They've got a couple losses so far this season, but Jaden Daniels is one of those guys that he's a weapon. He's probably one of the best players in the SEC. This defense is going to have to be ready to play. And I heard a lot about going after this game, what halftime adjustments were made and what did they do at halftime that was different from what we did in the first half to have that kind of performance in the second half. And it's never really about the adjustments. And I think it's really more about how we go in and clean up the things that we didn't do right. We didn't execute well in the first half that caused us problems. And those are the things that you go in there and you got to fix at halftime. It's not really changing game plan as much. It's really about just saying, okay, when they come out and do this, we're supposed to, if you executed what we called correctly, that play wouldn't have been successful. And that's what we did in the second half. That's what we showed this weekend in the second half is if we execute just like we're supposed to, we can be a really good football team and we can stop a lot of we can be successful on offense and stop a lot of good teams on the defensive side of the ball. And we're going to have some pretty good execution over these next few weeks if we really want to finish the season off like we plan to.
And this team just doesn't panic. Even in the Texas game, you were able to still come back from a deficit, take a lead in the fourth quarter. Again, the USF game, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Arkansas interesting at times. Certainly this week, falling down 13-0 to Tennessee, this group has not panicked through any of that.
Yeah, which is shocking with as young as this team is inexperienced as this team is, for them to be able to settle down and not let that moment be too big for them, where they still handle their business and they go out there and execute and not get down on themselves. They still go out there and play football and show up. And you got to give a lot of credit to this coaching staff. These guys are preparing these players mentally. You got some guys, you can tell this team is hungry. They want to play well. They are out there giving it everything they possibly can. And it's a lot of credit to these young guys. We see a lot of freshmen and sophomores across the starting lineups out there, and they're not letting any of this get to them. They know they can win, but we just can't afford to get behind and have these slow starts or not finish ball games. Coach Saban always talks about let's start fast and finish strong. We've done a combination of that throughout this season, one or the other. Now we're going to have to really put it together and do both if we want to be effective for the rest of the season.
Well, it's been a fun show here at Baumhower's talking about the win against Tennessee. Coming up, we have more wedding festivities to celebrate with Todd and Jenny, so we're going to break away now for a final time tonight. But Cory really enjoyed it, and again, we look forward to talking more about Alabama and LSU coming up next week.
Looking forward to it. Enjoy your off week, and we'll reconvene here again a week from today.
Sounds good. Roll Tide, Cory Reamer. That's going to do it for this edition of Crimson Tide Rewind, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health. Again, live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. If you missed any portion of tonight's show, you can always catch it on demand on the Alabama Insider podcast. It's available wherever you can download and subscribe to get your podcast. A couple other programming notes around the Crimson Tide Sports Network this week. We will have one edition of Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR coming up on Thursday at 2 p.m. With some coverage from Alabama Basketball Media Days, SEC Media Days this past week in Birmingham, plus a conversation with the Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne. And then at 6:30 coming up on Thursday night, we will also have Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show from Baumhower's in Tuscaloosa. But for Ryan Bexton back at our Learfield studios, our engineer on his big day, Todd Robbins, as well as Cory Reamer, I'm Roger Hoover saying thank you for listening to Crimson Tide Rewind, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health. From Baumhower's in Vestavia, good night and roll Tide.
Hey, roll Tide.